you for joining us. It is officially Thrive Thursday. I'm Laura Brandao, and today we have three lovely guests who are going to share with us how they have adapted to our new world and are now thriving. Let's meet our guests. From Fort Washington, Maryland, we have Torrean Green. He is a cinematographer, photographer, and a multimedia producer at the Fort Knights production. From California, we have Lisha Davidovits. She is a success coach for high achieving millennials. And also from Maryland, we have Latasha Green. She is the CEO and creative cultivator at DTT by L Green. Welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you with us. And Torian, let's kick this off. All right. Take me back. Take me back before we ever heard of any pandemics. Take me back to 2019. Okay? I've got the magic wand. We go back in time. What lessons have you learned during this change and adaptation of 2020 that you would actually go back and apply to your previous self before 2020 because you have realized that those lessons were necessary for you to learn and you are actually better off going forward with that adaptation?
Well, one lesson that I've picked up thanks to 2020 that I would definitely take back to 2019 is the importance of setting your structure in advance.
Huh.
I learned a lot in 2020 from trial and error about processes that I already had in my mind on how I was going to do them, in particular when it came to videography and client interaction. I had processes in mind on how I was going to tackle those, but I thought it was going to go one way. Had I started in 2019, when 2020 came around, I would have more experience doing that.
So tell me what you did. So okay, so now here comes the change of 2020. You're like, okay, I need to make some changes. I need to adapt to this. What did you do? What were those changes?
Well, number one on the changes list was getting the time frame ironed out in advance. The scope of work and the time frame correlate strongly. There are some cases where your work can be done in 2 days. In some cases, it might take 2 weeks. But judging that scope of work, I now have that experience in knowing, okay, this is what's important, actual face-to-face time and breaking down what needs to be shown on camera.
Hmm. Interesting. So how did your entire world change? I mean, I have to imagine and give me an example. What were you doing videography of? Was it events like weddings and things like that, or was it something else?
Well, it was potential for weddings and events. There was actually one wedding that was on the books for 2020 that was then pushed to this year.
Right.
But thanks to the pandemic and all of its unknowns, and okay, can we actually interact with people in these close, intimate settings like we used to? And we found out the answer was no. But we learned we had to pivot and we just had to move to outside. Thankfully, I had the tools to work with working outside, but of course, you have to pivot, and everybody was scared. What it meant for me was my calendar emptied out.
Yeah. So what did you do?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest and say I huddled down. Luckily, I had saved money. I didn't blow through everything I had, but I just had to hunker down and watch and see how my peers were handling this time as well. Most of them kind of buckled. A lot of them, everybody hunkered down, and thankfully everybody I followed, they had a savings plan or savings account. But then there were a few of us that didn't, and they were struggling.
And I think that's another lesson that lots of people learned, right? Is that you want to talk about an unknown. I don't think anyone could have possibly ever imagined seeing something like this come, right? But that goes back to that planning and pivoting and okay, listen, none of us could control it. We all, I think that was the biggest feeling we all had was we were out of control. We had no idea what was going to happen. And as much as we watched and waited for guidance, nobody had answers. There was a lot of unknown. So, Torian, now fast forward, here we are in 2021. How are things going? And how have you pivoted that you feel you're actually going to be thriving based on those lessons?
Well, based off of my lessons that I learned from last year, I know now, as far as time schedules, I am very flexible. I used to be, okay, we can get this done in
Yeah.
2 days, we can get this done in 2 weeks. Now, I have a few people on retainer where you just pay me for the month and we will get it done within that month whenever it works for you.
That's great. That's wonderful. And I think that's a great way to approach things, right? And I think that those are some of the lessons we all need to take away. I love it. Okay. All right, Lisha, what did you learn? What are you going to now take from those lessons that you did learn? How did you adapt and change? And what will you continue to, do in your business going forward after all of this is behind us?
Yeah, so I learned how to quiet things that tend to trigger me and hijack me.
Hmm.
And it was such a blessing with timing that, like in February, there was an opportunity for coaches to learn how to strengthen mental fitness under the mentorship of Shirzad Shamin of Positive Intelligence. So I was like, oh, this sounds like a cool opportunity. This was pre lockdown, pre all of that. And so I was really lucky that I was kind of already on that course where I'm like, yeah, this sounds good. I want to do that. Come March, then I was hearing about all these changes and my kids were going to be home. And I remember going for a walk and sitting down on the sidewalk and just crying because it felt like the world as I knew it was crashing down. I was going to be at home trying to do my, job, have my business with my kids here, doing the distance learning. My husband was going to be here. Everything was changing. I'm very driven and, very much like, okay, I want to put my all into everything. And all of a sudden it was like, how am I going to put my all into everything when everything is right here at all times? And I felt so overwhelmed. And that was, kind of like my rock bottom during the pandemic. And it was just amazing starting to learn these tools as I started the program later that month of how to quiet things that tend to trigger me, like my drive for success and that ambition, like how to notice, like, okay, that's starting to take over, learning how to quiet it, building the mental muscles to be able to shift to more empathy for myself and saying like, hey, there's only so much I can do to quiet that stickler that I have where I'd get overwhelmed by messes previously and say to my kids, what's going on? This room is a mess. And being at home, even more of that came up. As I strengthened my mental muscles, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm able to see these situations and neutralize them that much faster than I previously had been because I was strengthening my mental muscles through this program that I was going through that just happened to coincide with the start of the pandemic. So I would see it. And instead of being caught up in like frustration, anger, aggravation, all of that, it was curiosity of like, oh, hey, what's going on here? What have they been up to? There's everything seems to be out in the middle of the room right now. And then, empathy too for myself and for my family with what they were going through. And that curiosity of like, hey, something's feeling off. How can my husband and I explore and be open rather than like, what are you doing? Why aren't you helping? I need more of this. I learned to quiet more of my pleaser too, where I'm going to go above and beyond, make sure everything's taken care of. Oh, it's lunchtime. Don't worry, I'll take care of lunch. Husband, you can keep working. Like I learned how to notice when that was hijacking me. And with those mental muscles to like intercept that and say, okay, I'm in judge mode, judging others, judging myself, judging the situation. And using exercises shift into sage as I strengthen that muscle, that has really, really been what's made the difference for me. And I've talked to other coaches that also were in the same cohort, and they've said the same thing. Like, it was just such a gift to have that and to be able to see challenges. And instead of saying like, this is hard, this is bad, look for the gifts and opportunities, and shifting to that mindset. Oh my gosh, like what a saving grace during all of these turbulent times, to be there more for my family, for friends, for myself. Then that's priceless. And it was just a
Absolutely. And
coincidence.
how did that affect the people you were coaching? Because I know your target audience, are high achieving millennials, right? And I have to imagine, everyone had those kind of feelings, right? We all were in those same feelings at one point during this pandemic, right? But I think everyone was searching for answers and everyone was looking for some way to feel better, right?
Right.
So, how are you guiding your clients through some of this?
Yeah, I love that question. And when you ask me, it brings up so many conversations where it would start with the client saying, like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so stressed. I've got this. I don't know what to do. And we'd have these conversations about, getting them grounded, using these, practices from this mental fitness program, and then also helping them to see a different perspective. So getting into a different mindset and different perspective, like, okay, where are you right now? Right now, like I'm in the dump, and the dump truck has just dumped everything on me, and I'm overwhelmed. I can't even get up. Okay, let's go. Let's look at do you see a mountain in the distance? Yeah, I see a mountain. So what does it look like from that mountaintop? And all of a sudden there's this spaciousness. It's getting into a different energy. It's using embodiment and creating a shift that then helps them to access the parts of themselves that have that wisdom that sometimes gets stuck. It's like, having that key to unlock the door. And then the mental strength helps what feels like a mountain, one mountain after another, feel like a hill instead, where it's like, hey, you know what? Just like the physical strength, you need to get up a mountain. The stronger you are, the easier it is. With that mental strength, the easier it is to navigate your way, to overcome that challenge, to navigate that challenging situation.
I think you're correct. And you're so right about that perspective, right? Sometimes we're so, especially, we weren't leaving our homes. It was like we were seeing the same thing over and over again, right? Where people were saying it was like Groundhog Day, right? We just kept doing the same thing over and over. But the problem with that is that we weren't changing our perspective. So everything always seemed to stay the same. But you're correct. I love that analogy of look at the mountain, or, but I always remember one person on Thrive Thursday that, I think I mentioned this last week, even Latasha, where she mentioned that she never noticed the tree in her backyard bloomed. And that I always remember, because it is so true that so many of us have gone through our lives not even noticing that the tree in the backyard blooms, or that something with our kids, or something with our partners, or whoever it is. And so I think that perspective and taking that moment to readjust really does change everything. Okay.
Right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
you're going to take those lessons that you've learned through this mental muscle improvement, right, and positive thinking into your business as you continue on in helping others.
Right, absolutely. Yes, it really accelerates the progress. And also for myself too, of that greater self-awareness of when I'm being triggered, and just noticing and then coming into that present moment. It's that slowing down, it's surrendering to what's here, and instead getting curious, accessing compassion, exploring, and having patience. So yeah, it's really a powerful shift that is serving me so well, clients so well. And I'm definitely grateful and have every intention to continue that.
I love that. And we were speaking before we started recording about how we don't necessarily celebrate our wins or what we've accomplished today, because we're always thinking about the next one. So, Lisha, what's your recommendation on how we all can enjoy our present moments and some of our, even it could be the littlest of win or the largest? How do we take that moment to really enjoy that?
It's just being able to come into that present moment and saying like, what's right here, not, what just happened or what's about to happen, but just kind of surrendering to what's right here, right now. What is the gift or opportunity that the present brings? And really like kind of doing a scan of oneself, relaxing and, just relieving any tension that's there. And yeah, looking for that gratitude, because when you are hijacked with like fight or flight or frustration or fear, you can't access that. It's like you're in survival brain. So noticing when that's happening, and then just like a deep breath. Or there's a great exercise I'll share it, where you
Tell
put
us.
your thumb and your index finger together.
Okay.
And so your feet are firmly planted on the ground, spine is straight, chest is open. And so with your thumb and index finger together, eyes closed, we can all do it together. You make gentle circles with your fingertips.
Okay.
With just enough tension to feel the ridges of your fingertips.
Got it.
You do that for 10 seconds. If the thought comes in, let it go. Thought comes in, just let it go. And that's time.
That's very relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah, it quiets that mental chatter, allows you to come into that present, and it can be done anywhere, anytime, which is the beauty of it.
Love it. Look at that. Look what we learned, and just teed up perfectly for Latasha. All right, Latasha, tell us what changed. What did you learn? How did you adapt? And what are you moving forward with?
Sure. So what really changed for me is my time and availability for life. I was always on the go. If I wasn't going to a 9 to 5, or if I wasn't going to work my business or going to do something for family, I was always on the go. And so I realized when we had to be still, that life can still continue on if you just are able to slow down. And as you said, see things bloom, smell the roses, take time for self, and just sometimes, put other systems in place that can still help you thrive, but while you're taking a break for yourself. So I was able to really see that taking time for self is okay. The world won't end. And I definitely have taken that into now to where I've been able to put people and processes in place with my business to continue to allow it to thrive, while I'm able to take time for self, because taking time for self allows me to be a better person for family and for business. So that's one thing that I definitely will bring from what we've been through, because it was beneficial to my health. And I see that business is actually thriving with me being able to sit back and reevaluate, take some time, and move forward.
That is so important. People need to realize, we all need to realize, it is not selfish to have self-care.
Right.
Because when we take care of ourselves, it makes us stronger to help others, whether it's our clients, our families, or whoever it is.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, you mentioned even just feeling better, right? And having a healthy body and mind. I think that was so recognized during all of this, is that we just, I think we filled our calendars and filled all of our time because we thought that made it so we were getting more done.
Right.
But I think we were getting less done, right? I don't think we actually were moving forward because we were just running from one thing to the next.
Absolutely. And sometimes we were just doing stuff just because we felt like we should be doing stuff.
Right.
We've made it feel like society says if you're always hustling and if you're always doing something, then you're productive, or you're quote unquote winning when it comes to life. And that's not always true. Billions of dollar deals are made on a golf course, relaxing. So, just always keeping that in front of the mind, saying you can still be thriving, winning, and moving along in life and business with the relaxation. I know for me personally, me being able to just woosah and take some time allowed me to be more creative.
Yeah,
I
isn't
was
that
able,
amazing, right?
yes, I was being more creative. I was able to block out things, not worry as much, and then it just opened me up to be so much more creative in making of my jewelry, creating new sets. Like the energy was flowing, and I realized that I was bogging down my energy with thoughts and things that weren't productive, nor did it wasn't helpful to me or my business.
So
So
what do you do, Latasha? Like, how do you time block? Do you go
Mhm.
for a walk? Do you like, what do you do to get that creativity flowing?
So one thing I do to get my creativity flowing is I have lots and lots of planners, okay? And I try to write out my day. And it really is not a time block like from 8 to 12, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I just have my goals for the day. And
Okay.
I say, today I would like to accomplish this, 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 and this. And so then as I continue to go out throughout the day, I have that to say, this is how you continue to stay on track. One thing I try also not to do is just bog myself down with things that aren't of me. Meaning, we could get bogged down with TV, and we're in a world of reality TV, and we could get bogged down with so many other things.
Binge watching.
Yes, binge watching, eating. Everybody talk about the quarantine.
Oh,
like we could get bogged down with
sourdough bread. Was it sourdough bread? Is that what everybody was baking?
And so instead of turning to those things, I turned to like journaling. I turned to creating scents with my candles. I just say, hey, I want to try to do some sensory candles. And that was big during this time because a lot of people suffered from anxiety and just the unknown, as we've all talked about. So being able to have something to relax was my biggest goal. So just being able to focus in on what scents can I put together to help with relaxation, help relieve stress. And so I did that, and just jewelry making just kept my mind off of a lot, like, what was going on outside of my walls. Of course, we're here, we know what's going on, but it just helped ease and help with my own personal anxiety. So I just really kept my notes, stayed focused, and just try to tune out everything else.
Yeah, I think that's important for all of us to do, especially, you're an artist, your creativity is art, Torrean is an artist, right? So you guys you're able to create, you're able to focus in on creating that art and that beauty for the world. And then Lisha has the gift of working with others to be able to guide them and be able to share her wisdom and her teachings with others. I mean, that's what we need to lean into, because that is, again, we couldn't control what was happening out there. All we could control is what was happening in our world. And that's the whole point of Thrive Thursday, is sharing how we've been able to thrive during this change, to be able to make our worlds productive and positive for others, because we can control that. Okay. All right, Torrean, we're up to my superpower question, and everybody knows that a couple days before we go live, I ask you to do a little bit of a homework assignment to go and ask some people that care about you what your gift to the world or your superpower is and why. So Torrean, please tell us, what is your superpower?
Well, I asked two people. We're going to start with my mother.
Oh, moms are great.
I asked her what my superpower was, and the first thing she came back with was my ability to problem solve. And then I said, okay, I need the why to go with that. And then for next thing she said was, people can word vomit their ideas onto you, and you can find the minute problems and find the solution, and then give them back a finished product.
Oh.
Because I remembered what we said during the discussion,
Don't debate.
not to argue with her, and don't
Don't
debate.
debate, especially with mom. Don't debate mom.
I just sat there and said, Okay, it's not that easy. You make it sound that easy, but I had to accept it that that is what I do. And then I also asked my significant other, okay,
Yeah.
what's my superpower? And she said that I am genuine and a hard worker.
Okay.
So at that point, okay, why? She says, from the time that I've known her, I've always been myself. And that
Mm-hmm.
whenever I am working on something for others, I am always giving my best and all of my attention to that item. So at that point, okay, I put two and two together and realized, okay, I really do find the details. If, for instance, somebody tells me everything they want done and they don't have any idea what that idea entails yet, I can find the details and make a script and then tell them, okay, this is what we're doing, and then do it.
Well, it sounds to me like mom and your significant other are both correct because it sounds like those marry together into what you're doing. So I'm just curious, okay? And again, I thank you for not debating mom on what she said because she was right. How did it make you feel? Like, did it have you analyze, like, kind of think about yourself and how you work and how you think? And did it kind of give you a little bit of clarity?
Actually, yes, it really made me think about it because I didn't particularly sum it up to me problem solving all the time. I just, people tell me what they want and I try and make it happen. I never put two and two together. And even when I was collecting my resume, because I finally updated it thanks to sitting around and waiting, I sat down and updated my resume and realized, wait a minute, I do 95% problem solving. I
Look at
take what
that.
people tell me they want or what they want to do or what they want to say, and then I figure out how best to translate and communicate that.
That is right. That is it. And then you make beautiful production and art out of that. And that is truly a gift. And the beauty of what you just said, Torian, is you're utilizing your superpower. You're sharing it with the world. And that's what makes it glorious, is that you're actually using it. So yay. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Lisha's got an interesting one though. Okay, so when I give her the assignment, she said, to be honest, Laura, I know what my superpower is, and I discovered it when I was young. So I can't wait to hear the story because that's the first time I've heard that. So please share.
So I remember when I was like probably about middle school, then my mom, she said to me, like, cards that you write for my birthday or for Mother's Day, you have a really special way of writing that touches me so powerfully. And I've saved all of your cards. And she's like, there's just something so amazing about your words and how you use them, and you're able to connect with my heart. And I was like, well, but maybe I'm just a good writer. She's like, no, it's more than that. There's like, just you're able to evoke a certain feeling, and it's this power that is unusual and special. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. And just hearing her say that, she'd often say that she was proud of me or, praise me about certain things. But that was something where the way that she said it, I'm like, maybe there is something special about that. And I thought about like, well, what is it? And I realized like when I sit down to write something where I want the person to know that I really care about them, it wasn't about doing it. It wasn't like, oh, it's mom's birthday, I need to write her a nice card. It was kind of what Latasha had said about the being. It's not what we're doing or how we're doing it. It's who we're being in that moment. And I realized like, yeah, you know what? I can come into a very present place and connect with heart. And to be like, I want to evoke love in my words. And the best way to do that is to feel that love in my heart, to connect with that compassion. And I came to be very grateful for being able to do that so powerfully. And I write letters to my husband and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting tears. And I would see the emotion that would come up when I would write things, and people would be reading cards at a birthday party and they would come to mine and they would just pause. And I'm like, this is a superpower. Like, I'm able to connect with people in a really powerful and meaningful way. And that's part of what led me to coaching, is so appreciating being able to connect with people and wanting to use that superpower to serve people in even more impactful ways, to have that deep heart, compassion, empathy. And what's interesting is with every superpower, when taken to the extreme, there can be a dark side.
That's
and
correct.
I've seen that.
I am so glad you said that, because most people do not realize not everyone uses it for good. Some people use it not for a good reason. Keep going, Lisha. Keep going.
So it can be intentionally not for good, or it can be not for good for oneself.
Correct.
So for me, you know, there's someone where, you know, they're having a situation, I feel so much compassion. I'm going to put aside my own needs, not have my own boundaries, and go above and beyond for that person, and end up overextending myself, or end up being consumed because someone else is grieving, something terrible happened, and I just feel so much, I get caught up in it and I have a hard time moving past it. So that's where it kind of goes to the dark side. And I need to realize, like, you know, this is a superpower and I need to have boundaries around that for the sake of my own well-being. And so use it when it's really serving others and serving who I want to be, but not let it compromise me. So there is that balance.
There really is, once you are aware of what it is, and every single human being on earth has one. Everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, makes no difference. Every single person has at least one. Some have more than one, but at least one. Once you're aware of it, the biggest joy, like Lisha just said, is understanding it and understanding how to use it for good, but not allow it to overwhelm and not allow it to take over. So think of the adventure that you can have in discovering that, right? And how that can be utilized for the better of yourself, your family, and the world. I love it. Well, that's great that you are so in tune and you're using it just like Torrean. You're using it in your business and in your life. And I can just imagine how many people you're positively affecting. That is awesome. Yay. All right, Latasha, superpower.
So I have two that I was told. I was told that my superpowers are me being optimistic of life, and then also on me being a seeker of knowledge. And so with being optimistic, I always have the will just to say it'll happen. We can, you know, I'll do it. I can do it. I'll get through it. I look to the present, but I also know that the future is around the corner, you know? And if I don't pay attention to how I'm kind of moving in the present, you never know what's going to happen in the future. So I'm always like, be here, be present, you know, it's gonna happen. I don't know how, but it's gonna work out. And so, you know, I was told they're like, you're the person who's always gonna be like, it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out. And so, you know, most of the time it does. And when I say it works out, it might not be how I thought it was gonna work out, but it worked out the way it was supposed to work out, and it brought some type of benefit or some type of learning experience. So people always say it didn't work out like you felt like it, but you always were positive about it. So I would say that was one of my superpowers. And then I'm just a thriver of knowledge. I'm a seeker of knowledge. So if I'm the person, if I don't know, I'm going to try to figure it out. And so and that goes back to when I was younger. My mother told me that I took apart the doorbell because I wanted to know how
does this work?
Right? How does it work? How do you ring this doorbell? Or did I just hear it ringing in the house? And so I took apart the doorbell and put it back together. And so I'm a seeker of knowledge, even if it's, hey, how do you make this jewelry? How do you make this candle? Like, I'm a YouTuber. I just research. I say Google is a good start. I tell people there's some reliable, viable information. You just have to know what you're looking for. And so I don't mind just looking. And so since I'm the person who doesn't mind to do the research, people always come to me to find the answers.
Look at that. And I love that. I mean, and I think, listen, we live in such a glorious world right now where we can find the answer to anything, right? Regardless of what we want, we can go and find that. So the fact that I almost think being a seeker of knowledge and being optimistic kind of go together, right? Because it almost seems like in your mind, it's like, I can get the answer to anything. I'm not afraid to go find the answer. I'm not afraid to learn something. No one is going to stop me, because if she can do it or he can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're thinking things will always work out, because why not? I can find the answer. If someone else figured it out, so can I.
Exactly.
So that is awesome. And that is so great. And one question in regards to being the person known for that. Do people kind of like come to you almost like, well, Latasha, I'm struggling with, Victoria's raising his hand. Yeah, like do you kind of go to her going, I need a little of that. Like, can you share some of that with me?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work?
I do get that a lot, and I get it in different realms. Like, I get it in a sense of motivation. Like, they're like, hey, how is it that you feel like I could do it? What keeps you going?
Yeah.
Then I also get it in as people who just don't want to do the research, and they're like, hey, you already know, can you tell me? And I say, no problem. I have an invoice for that. So I don't mind sharing it. And it used to irritate me. I used to just be like, but Google it, But I embrace it now. I embrace it. And I'm like, hey, this is happening to me for some reason. Maybe I'm supposed to be the person that they come to for this, and add it as a business component.
Why not? I love that. That is so great, though. I love that you're like, hey, I'm going to embrace it. Why not? And maybe it's a piece of my business that I can add on. So this is the reason why it's coming. Oh my God, that's great. Well, you guys are awesome. This has been fantastic. And we're at the point, Latasha, I already have your person, but Torrean and Lisha, tell me who's going to be joining me next week.
Well, if everything pans out, I
Don't say
have,
yes. Don't say yes, Torrean. Don't worry.
well, hopefully. I call him Mr. Hicks. He is a producer, and he has been running a production company for, I want to say, almost as long as I've been alive.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully he can be available, and we love to hear his story. Fantastic. And Lisha, who will I have the pleasure?
It's a dear friend, Rob Zimmerman, and he is an amazing coach, an adventurer, a true, spirit at heart. He does yoga and holistic health and Reiki. He's just a master in so many areas, so passionate and charismatic about life, has traveled all over. He's actually in the process of moving on to his, the next chapter in his adventures. So he's going to be a great one to talk to.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like great, interesting people. I can't wait. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your superpowers. You obviously are a light to the world, and keep shining brightly. Be well. We wish you all the best, and take care.
Thank you.